Hi, I'd like to welcome our listeners to our inaugural season of QG Connect. My name is Bharat Chari, and QG Connect is where we engage industry leaders on their perspectives around data governance and which phase of the data governance journey they're currently on. First of all, I'd like to welcome Valerio, Head of Data Governance at Paymaya in the Philippines. Welcome to QG Connect now.
Thank you, and good day to everyone. Good day to you, Bharat.
Really looking forward to our conversation today. And so for our listeners, I just wanted to provide a brief background of who DataQG is before we launch into the interview. And so first and foremost, we are a resource platform for organizations and individuals, no matter which stage of the data governance journey they are on. And so all resources on our platform is provided by our members, including CIOs, CTOs, practitioners, and content creators across 60 countries. And that business at its core is built around bringing people together as a global community under one virtual roof. And having said that, let's first launch into the interview today. And so Mel, again, like I said, really wanted to thank you for taking the time today. And I was wondering if maybe to help us get started, if you could give a little bit of background about Paymaya and what you currently do at Paymaya.
Yeah, sure. Paymaya is actually the end-to-end digital payments ecosystem enabler here in the Philippines, with platforms and services that are really cut across consumers, merchants, communities, and also the government. So Paymaya provides millions of Filipinos with access to financial services through its consumer platforms. So I'm here in Paymaya. I just onboarded only this year, and I lead the data governance team in overseeing Paymaya's data governance platform, which really aims to build and roll out company-wide data management standards, processes, and policies. So we have started this program only this year, and I would say that we have done a lot of successful initiatives that cut across the whole organization in Paymaya. So we are just building our team and expanding the team in the next couple of months because we will really want to focus on a lot of areas in terms of the data strategy, the data architecture, data management and operations and platforms, and of course the data quality and data metadata out of it.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing those details, Mel. And if I was wondering if you could take a step back and look back to the beginning of your sort of career, I'm curious to know what made you want to get into data governance in the first place.
For the past couple of decades, I really worked with data. In my first few years in the industry, I really worked on a semiconductor industry, doing a lot of test development stuff and doing a lot of data validation. So when I do a lot of data validations, I really love data and have passion for it. However, I really get frustrated when I cannot get things done in reporting, primarily because of I don't know where can I get the data, which data I can trust, and I don't have access sometimes to the data. So this gives me some opportunity that I really need to go to the data management part of it because as a consumer or as as a user of data, I had these frustrations and disappointment that most of my time is really digging into the data instead of doing a lot of analysis and all that. So when there's an opportunity for me to work on a data management or a data governance, I really hook into it. And it becomes my driving force that I need to get this done. I need to make sure that the data will be available, the data can be trusted, the data can be understood, and the data will be, have a good quality that is always fit for purpose. So that makes me decide that, even you are just in one of the departments or one of the whatever users you have, regardless of what level you have, it's very important to have a good quality of data, that someone is really governing and managing of data. And I would want it to be part of that organization. I want to have a depth in the organization that, managing the data, governing the data on the end-to-end life cycle of it is really, my driving force to really get into it.
That's a great story, Mel. I mean, I think from being a user or a consumer of data yourself, it sounds like that sort of really started your interest in data governance, and so now you're on the other side, sort of acting as a, basically overseeing the data governance program, and you're sort of working and collaborating with these consumers across the organization. That's a great story.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, based on where you are with respect to Paymaya and based on your previous experiences, I was wondering if you could shed some light on maybe, let's say there's an organization that's looking to build a data governance program. What are some of the steps that you would maybe recommend, either in based on the experiences that you have had, or in general, maybe somewhat of a, if you could talk about that journey a little bit, that would be great.
Okay. Well, I've been to a lot of industry that I was the one who established data governance, and I would say every organization has its own unique style in terms of establishing and building and implementing a successful data governance. But I think the common denominator is, I would say, it will always start from the top. There should be a commitment from the senior management team that you will have a good support from them. So you have to get the buy-in from them first, and making sure that it's not only the buy-in that they agree, but there's always a commitment coming from them. Then once you have those kind of commitment and support from the top, then you have to establish a well-defined policies, roles, and responsibilities. This is where you can identify those roles, the data roles, like the data domain owner, the stewards, and all that, because that will help you embark on your data governance journey. Then, of course, you have to govern your application and development activities, making sure that there will be no silos in terms of having a lot of applications across the department. As much as possible, you have to see on an enterprise level, making sure that everyone else are on the same page. And to see if there's if you are going into a successful journey, definitely you have to do some measuring of whatever progress you have. So you set the standards, you set the KPI and all that, and of course you have to minimize some data redundancy, because if you are working on a large scale or organization, there's a lot of systems and applications that are being deployed, right? So making sure that you don't have any data redundancy while you are collecting the data, because that will affect the quality of data that is being used by organization. And to summarize all that, of course, your end goal is to have one source or one golden source of data, because that's very important that everyone else are looking into one golden source of data, making sure that the numbers that Department A is reporting is also the same numbers that Department B is reporting, and you have a common understanding of what are those fields or what are those terms that they are reporting. So I guess, in summary, get the support, get the commitment from the top management, define the policies, the roles and responsibilities to make sure that there's an accountability on what has been done, what we'll be doing, and what are those initiatives that needs to do, and have an end in mind that you need to have a golden source of truth.
No, I feel there's a lot to unpack there, Mel. I mean, all the items you said, I think we can dedicate maybe an hour to each of those topics, because I'm sure it's not as straightforward or as linear as you just described.
Yeah. And I forgot to mention, of course, you need to be aligned with your data strategies, aligned with the business or the organization's vision.
No, excellent point. I mean, I was wondering maybe if you want to dig a little bit deeper into that aspect that you mentioned around getting buy-in from the senior management. I'm curious about like how you were able to get that buy-in at Paymaya or for other organizations. Like maybe what were some of the tactics that you employed? Because I'm sure that it's not something that happens overnight. It's something that takes time and takes effort. So I was wondering if you could maybe talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, one of the data challenges, I will say, is really the buy-in from the stakeholders. So what we are always doing is to provide them a profile of what is the current situation of the data that we have. So specifically on the areas of data quality, right? Then from there, ask them what are their their strategy, their business strategy, specifically, let's say, for example, for a marketing department. They really want to have a lot of campaigns, promos, and all that. And from there, if you want to have a very good campaign strategy, you need to have a good customer information, right? And if you are going to profile the customer information, if 50% of the email address and the mobile numbers are really in a bad condition, or I would say bad quality, then how can you be able to reach out to the consumers, or to the potential clients that you would want to convert into an opportunity, right? So those are the things that we provide them, the numbers, because I always believe that let the data speak for itself, right? So that's a very classic example, I will guess, that we can start off, making sure that they know exactly that the data that they are using will be very good in terms of the decision making. If we profile the data which is not good enough, then that is something that we really need to work on. And that is something that they need to realize, that that the importance of, or the value of data governance in the organization.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because I feel like in a lot of cases, these departments may not quite understand the depth of the issue, or the challenge that they have with data quality. And so unless these numbers are presented, and I love your point, like, let the data speak for itself, because that is something that really, I think, drives home the value, or the value of data governance, and the scope of the challenge that they have. So that's a great point. I mean, just making sure that you can get stakeholders to buy in based on based on sort of exposing the magnitude of the challenges that they have. And I was wondering, Mel, I mean, one of the other points you brought up was aligning with the data strategy. So I was wondering whether you could maybe talk about how like data architecture, for example, plays a role as part of the data strategy, and how it really impacts like the data governance practice at Paymaya.
Well, I will say data architecture and data governance work hand in hand. So while data architecture focuses on technology and infrastructure design, data governance encompasses the people, the process, and the workflow, as well as the architecture needed to support the governance initiatives, right? So data architecture actually can support data governance by making governance strategies on the physical level, so that they can be implemented in the real world, and not just serving an abstract idea. So when we say data architecture, it actually helps you gain a better understanding of what the data you have. It provides guidelines for managing data, for initial capture in the source system, to the information consumption by the business people. So it's very important that for every business strategy or data strategy, data architecture is always there, because it will provide a structure which will develop and implement data governance practices, specifically on the data models that can illustrate which data requires governance, and can highlight reference and master data sets. So I guess the important thing is that the disciplines of data architecture and data governance come together to form a continuous improvement cycle, ensuring that your data is getting better and evolving in line with the business requirements. So I guess the impact for data governance is really huge. It has a very significant impact when it comes to when we are talking about data architecture, because whatever initiatives, especially on the data lake side, if you are building a consolidated data architecture will make it happen not only on an abstract layer, but on the physical layer.
I love that point. And one of the things I had heard recently from another leader we were interviewing was around how the challenge is not really with the technology. It's more around like the people and the processes. And so I think what you mentioned around collaborating with the data architecture team when you're maybe trying to decide on some technology stack, that is important. But then equally important is trying to figure out what those processes are to extract the data from the data lake, because it's not just about, I mean, dumping data into a data lake, and there's this whole thing about data lakes becoming data swamps. So I think that's where, I mean, love your point about how data governance really sort of reinforces or goes really well together with that design aspect of it.
Yeah.
And I was also wondering, I mean, when you talk about the data that's sort of spread across any organization, I know there's, who do you think really owns that data ultimately? Is it the domain experts that you mentioned earlier, whom you talk to, or is it a more of a centralized function? What have you seen that works well in most organizations?
Well, it's actually a tricky question. No? It depends on the organization, but in most cases, we do have a corporate data probably belongs to the company, and that's the company is the owner, right? So each department within our an organization ought to be the custodian of the data it generates and uses to conduct its business. But ultimately, I would say it is the consumer that owns the data, but the data owner from I would say identified data owner coming from the business is accountable for the data within a specific data domain. So meaning to say, if they are the one who's generating the data, so the owner will now be a part of the business. So there will be a data owner coming from the business. So they are responsible to ensure that those information within their domain is governed across the systems and lines of business. So I guess the short answer is that you own the data you create. So it is not centralized. It is not IT. IT can be the data custodian, but definitely it is the business that who are also the producer or the consumer of data. They are the owner of the data.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense, because going back to the point you had made earlier, where you're trying to get buy-in from these different departments by showing them the extent of the challenge that they have around data quality, making them the owner and having them own that end to end, I think really helps them sort of see the value as they improve their data quality over time. They can really begin to see the impact of, let's say, those marketing campaigns that you mentioned, which I think is a great example, because I'm from marketing, so I can relate to how much of a challenge that is, just having the right people within an organization whom you can contact. So I love that point around having the data domain or the consumers own that particular data. And I mean, when you have, I mean, shifting tracks a little bit, when you have tried to look at the technology that you need, how do you make those decisions around whether to build or buy from a third party? Because I know there's pros and cons with both. So I was wondering if you have some insights there from your experiences.
There's a lot of factors that you have to consider when deciding to build or buy. I would say, to be specific, data management tools, right? So, of course, those factors are do you have an available budget? Is that part of the business goals? Is it scalable and flexible? What is the expected product lifetime or life cycle? Is the tool is available or that solution is readily available on the market? So I guess it all boils down on how the company or how the organization needs it. But given the fact that there's a lot of complexity into this computing environments, it really magnifies the difficulties of implementing somehow custom-made or a built-in or custom data management applications, right? So problems inherent in building these solutions from scratch include it's too expensive to develop, to maintain also, time-consuming, no real process improvements, too difficult to support multiple hardware platforms and support online and offline data collection. So I guess those are the cons of having to build in internally. But I would say there's a lot of benefits in buying a data management solution or a data management platforms or tools. So typically, it can overcome those challenges that I mentioned on the custom built solution. So it is, I would say, the total cost of ownership in terms of the faster time to deployment. It is flexible, scalable, higher quality, and all that. So I would say it really depends on how you envision your data governance journey. There are times that a small scale platform would be enough, and you don't need to get it in the market. It can be built internally, but you have to, you have to weigh and balance in terms of your resources, and the complexity of what you would want it to be. So in most cases, if you are working in a large scale organization dealing with a lot of data coming from different or disparate data sources, it will be better to buy a data management tool, because for one thing, they're already proven in the market. The time to deploy is short, instead of doing a lot of development, because it will also, you will need to allocate a lot of your resources from that one. So, and the support will be great also. So in the long run, definitely, if you decide to buy a data management tool in the market, then you have to be cautious also in terms of how will be their after sales support, because there are times that it is also a challenge that the after sales support is really not good. But most of the time, definitely that is also part of the checklist, or I would say the RFP are those kind of things that you have to deal with. So it bottom line, it depends how you will make your data governance journey across the organization. Do you need to have a full blast of data governance initiatives, or just a subset of what you would want to do in the next couple of years? So it depends. But for me, I'm leaning towards to purchase or to buy a data management tool, specifically if you're working on a large scale organization.
And that's a great point, Mel. I think there's a lot to unpack there as well, because all the points you mentioned are critical aspects, and I don't think one is more critical than the other. Actually, I did have a follow-up question on that point. So when you're, let's say, evaluating these data management tools in the market, how, and in terms of the time to value, how, what are the typical sort of time to value metrics that you look at? And I think this also ties back to the point you had made earlier about showing the success metrics or trying to have an end goal in mind. So I was wondering, like, either from a time-based perspective or from a metrics-based perspective, is it typically like 6 to 9 months before you start sort of seeing the value from, let's say, a tool that you're evaluating? Or if there's any other insights there you can share, that would be also really awesome.
Well, couple of years ago, 6 to 9 months is still acceptable, but in today's world, especially with the pandemic that we have, I mean, digital transformation really accelerated, and you want to make sure that you are, you are on the same boat, going into that direction. So I guess 3 to 6 months will be average time to market, and please don't boil the ocean. Meaning to say, just focus first on the use case, a particular use case, MVPs. Then from there, at least once you have those 3 to 6 months timetable, there's already a benefit within that time frame. So I guess the senior management team can be able to see the benefits or the significance of a particular tool, and then from there you can work on some strategy and roadmap along the way.
I think that's a great sort of a takeaway for anyone who's looking to evaluate a tool. So I think that's a really great pithy way to put it, Mel. And I was wondering, I mean, from the stakeholders that you were talking about earlier, and from getting like the buy-in from, let's say, senior management, how critical do you think are those people skills for someone who's leading a data governance program? I mean, how critical do you think it is for let's say someone in your role to know everyone or try to know everyone within your company?
In my personal opinion, even though I'm not head of the data governance before, I tend to, to work around with a lot of people in the organization, from the top until to the bottom. And it's my personality to really work with them, because along the way, there will be at times that you will need to get help with them, and all that. So you have to collaborate. You have to establish a sort of camaraderie. So if you are now ahead of data governance, so it actually level up the kind of thing that I really want to, to collaborate with them, to have to build a rapport, to build a camaraderie, because it's a give and take situation. You help them, and I will humbly say that most of the time they are helping me in terms of my data governance journey, because they are all the enablers of data governance initiatives. I cannot do it alone. The team cannot do it alone. We are driving, facilitating the data governance initiatives, and it will really cut across all organizations. So it will be very helpful for us, for me especially, leading the data governance, to know the people around me, from the manager up to the senior managers and to the staff level. It is very important that somehow you know everyone, and you know their personality and how you can approach them, because different people have different personalities, so you have to have a different strategy and how to approach them, but you still have the same vision and goal in mind.
Yeah, and I think these days it's even more challenging to know everyone that works within an organization due to obvious reasons. But I think that's where sort of building these bonds, either virtually or otherwise, I think to your point, I think that's a critical aspect that would be part of this people, the people, process, and technology. So it will be part of that people sort of pillar. So that's a great point, Mel. And I was wondering, like, from the perspective of knowing other teams within organizations, lately there's been a lot of focus on data science within most organizations. So could you maybe shed some light on how you see that collaboration between data science and data governance based on your experiences?
I will say data governance is always an important part or important piece of data science. So data governance ensures that the target data is being cultivated, and making sure that data science used to its full potential. So it's really working hand in hand between governance and data science. So more and more, I would say, with the management or data governance are introducing data science initiatives, or the management are introducing data science initiatives to support the digital transformation. So in order for data science to be successful, it is vital that the data management or data organization, data governance are able to trust the integrity or build integrity on all those digital environment. So data science needs to work with the data governance, making sure that whatever data they need, whatever data they need in terms of their data modeling and all that, data governance can be able to take that initiative and drive in terms of how we can capture the data, how we can collect the data, how we can be able to provide a consolidated good quality of data, how can we be able to provide them and understand the data that we have and all that. So I guess we don't want data science to consume their time in finding the data, looking the data, asking what data is this one. So data governance really collaborate with data science to ensure what they are doing is primarily doing a lot of data modeling, machine learning, and all that. Instead of consuming their time in complaining about where are those data and all that. So it's really a good there should be a good collaboration between data science and data governance, making sure that we manage the data accordingly and provide the data that is always fit for purpose in terms of the data science initiative. So it's a matter of data governance is data science is actually the customer of data governance for most cases.
No, definitely, Mel. And I think one of the things that I mean, I know we have talked about and that we've heard from others too, is how critical data governance is, or equally critical as data science. Because unless you have that trusted sort of foundation of data that you mentioned, it's you're sort of going around in circles just trying to build models on top of data that's not clean or that's not of the highest quality. And I'm going to do a shameless plug here. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we had started DataQG in the first place, to really put a spotlight on data governance, and to really have a venue where we could have leaders such as yourself, content creators, collaborate and exchange best practices. I was wondering if you could maybe shed some light on how you plan to leverage DataQG. I mean, what are some of the areas where you'd love to get help with, or learn from others? I mean, share your experiences or any of those.
I will say, of course, data governance is really evolving in alignment with modern technologies, right? So I can tell for myself that I am the best data governance professional in my own organization. But when you swim in the ocean with a lot of fishermen, then you will be humbled enough that there's a lot of good fishermen out there that are using modern technologies already, which is far behind to what you are doing now. So practicing better principles that evolves over time. So having this community, I'm expecting that it will give me a different perspectives on how to deal with different data governance scenarios or issues or challenges, specifically in managing data along with working with different stakeholders. So apart from that, this community that virtually supports your passion in terms of data will lead you to great success. And at the same time, this is a good platform also to share your insights and get feedback from the experts. So it's a collaboration of all data governance professionals and experts, and it will be a balance of what you have learned, what you can contribute to the community, and how can you be better in the future. So I guess my takeaway here is this community will really be a good platform to all data governance professionals who would want to get help and who would want to share insights and ideas so that we can be able to collaborate and ensure not only our organization will succeed, but also the rest of the organizations that you are with.
No, and we're definitely looking forward to working with you, Mel, in sharing your voice and as well as exchanging best practices, like you mentioned. So we're really excited to partner with you on that, on our journey as far as data governance is concerned. And I had one final question before we wrap. And by the way, I really enjoyed our chat today, and thanks again for taking the time. I was wondering,
No
I mean,
worries.
no, definitely. I mean, as parting advice, I know you have talked about some of these aspects already, but what would be maybe the advice you'd like to give to someone who's trying to start a data governance project off of the ground? Because I know you have talked about it, but I was wondering if you could maybe recap or share your thoughts on that.
Actually, when you would want to start or establish a data governance program or a project, I think it's not really a project, but it's a program because it's a never-ending, initiatives that you will want to. First is you just need to prepare your enabler. So when I say enabler, these are the people, the process, and the technology. Say, for example, for the people, you have to understand the needs of for cultural transformation and people enablement plan. So ensuring all people across your organization has the right mindset, capability, and capacity in order for you to support your data governance initiatives. Then for the process, I believe you have to prepare your data operating model, the governance, the framework, the policy, and the procedure. Define the control mechanism to monitor your data operating model and all that. So for the technology, definitely you have to define your data technology architecture framework. Is it the right time to build your own data lake or data warehouse, depending on the scale or the volume or the growth of data that you have. So you have to identify the tools that relevant to for your business and specifically on your data architecture solution. So I would say you have to know your role in the organization. So know what the business wants and needs and provide the data strategy. So act small, but think big. And I think just to give one liner, I guess the implementation of data governance strategies and initiatives is not an overnight success. So it is a journey. So be patient. Just focus on your data strategy.